All right, let's get right into it because today's topic is massive. I want to break down what I think Marvel is really building toward with the next Avengers film, how the unfinished script could lead into something even bigger than Kang Dynasty, and why Doctor Doom might secretly be the key to it all. We're talking potential Battleworld, multiversal collapse, Franklin Richards, Loki's TVA connections, and yes, Robert Downey Jr., possibly stepping into one of the wildest roles we've ever seen him in. This is one of those times where you can feel Marvel quietly setting up something monumental, but behind the scenes, the production chaos is also just as important to consider. Before I jump too deep, welcome to Hollywood Latest News. I'm Luke Harrison, and this is the place where I break down the latest updates, rumors, and theories coming straight out of Hollywood. If you're a fan of Marvel, or you just want to know what's really happening in these cinematic universes, you're in the right place. Now, let's dig in. So, the crazy part about this new Avengers movie is that it's literally being filmed while the script is still unfinished. That might not sound like a big deal to some people, but trust me, it's a red flag. Marvel has a history of doing this, and every time it leads to messy rewrites, reshoots, and a storyline that feels patched together. We saw hints of that in Multiverse of Madness and even Quantumania. They'll often start production, then later decide what the actual story is. And when you're dealing with something as complicated as multiversal storytelling, where one wrong detail can undo the whole structure, filming without a finished script is like trying to build a skyscraper before the blueprint is even complete. That said, leaks and reports coming out suggest that Marvel does have a skeleton of where this is going. And that skeleton is pointing directly toward Battleworld. If you're not familiar, Battleworld is essentially a stitched-together universe that gets created after a multiversal collapse. Think of it as a Frankenstein dimension. Pieces of destroyed worlds slapped together, ruled over by one figure. And who's that figure most likely to be? Dr. Doom. Here's where it gets really interesting. There are whispers that Robert Downey Jr. isn't just returning as Tony Stark. Instead, he might be playing a variant of Tony Stark who grew up in Latveria and became Dr. Doom. Just imagine the symbolism in that. The man who kickstarted the MCU as Iron Man now comes back as the ultimate villain, manipulating the multiverse not with a suit of armor, but with raw power and intellect. It's almost poetic. And then there's Franklin Richards. If you've read the comics, you know Franklin is basically a god-tier character. He has reality-bending powers that can reshape entire universes. The rumor is that Doom kidnaps Franklin in a Fantastic Four post-credit scene. That would make Franklin not just a side character, but essentially the linchpin of the entire multiverse saga. Doom, using Franklin's powers to control reality, is straight out of the comics, and it lines up perfectly with the leaks we've seen. Now, what about the Avengers themselves? Well, reports say they're going to find themselves in the TVA's Loom Room. If you watched Loki, you know that room is essentially the nerve center of the entire timeline, the place where reality is literally woven together. That's not a random choice. If the Avengers are heading there, it means they're trying to stabilize or repair the multiverse before Doom tears it apart. And yes, that also sets up a reunion between Thor and Loki, which fans have been waiting for since Infinity War. But here's the catch. Before everyone unites against Doom, there's going to be conflict. Leaked set details describe Nightcrawler, yes, the X-Men's Nightcrawler, actually punching Reed Richards. That screams Avengers vs. X-Men setup. And honestly, it makes sense. If the multiverse is collapsing, if different worlds and teams are colliding, you're going to get misunderstandings, battles, and rivalries. But eventually, they'll have to set aside differences and team up. Now, let's circle back to Doom because this is where the theory gets even juicier. There's a possibility that RDJ isn't just playing one Doom. He could be portraying multiple Doom variants, maybe even a Council of Dooms that mirrors the Council of Kings. Imagine an entire council of Tony Stark-like Dooms, each from a different world, debating how to control the multiverse. That's both terrifying and genius. And I think the real ending of this Avengers movie, if they stick with this path, is going to be a multiversal collapse. Everything crumbles, heroes and villains are pulled into a void, and that void reshapes itself into Battleworld. And on Battleworld, you don't just have one group of heroes. You've got Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, maybe even remnants of other universes. It's a patchwork survival game where alliances shift, betrayals happen, and the only way forward is to stop Doom. But here's where Marvel could really pull off a masterstroke. Wanda, Loki, and Franklin Richards. Think about it. Wanda is still out there, despite what happened in Multiverse of Madness. Loki has literally become the god of stories in his show, holding the threads of the multiverse together. And Franklin Richards is this reality-shaping powerhouse. Those three together are the only ones who could rebuild the multiverse after Doom destroys it. Now, I want to highlight one small but telling detail from the leaks. Apparently, there's an empty chair at a World Summit, and that chair is tied to Latveria. If that's true, it's Marvel quietly dropping a breadcrumb. It says, Doom exists, he's out there, He's traveling the multiverse, he's watching, and he's waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That kind of subtle setup is exactly what Marvel does best when they're on their A-game. Of course, none of this is locked in stone yet because, again, the ending of the film is reportedly still unwritten, and that uncertainty is both exciting and concerning. On the one hand, Marvel could adapt based on fan reactions and course correct in real time. On the other, it could lead to a Frankenstein script where nothing feels cohesive. But if they pull it off, we're talking about a cinematic event that could rival Infinity War and Endgame. Battleworld would allow Marvel to bring in every character they want. Avengers, mutants, cosmic heroes, even characters from alternate timelines. It's the ultimate excuse to throw everything on the screen and still have it make sense. And at the center of it all is Doom. Whether he's played by RDJ or someone else, whether it's one Doom or a Council of Dooms, I believe he's the true big bad of the multiverse saga. Kang may have been the setup, but Doom is the payoff. So yeah, that's how I see it. An unfinished script, a collapsing multiverse, the TVA and Loki stepping in, Avengers clashing with the X-Men, Doom kidnapping Franklin Richards, and eventually a battle world that reshapes the MCU moving forward. If even half of this comes true, we're in for something incredible. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here on Hollywood Latest News. I am Luke Harrison, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, please make sure to hit that like button, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future updates. And if you'd like to directly support what I do here, please consider using the Super Thanks feature. Anything up to $20 goes a long way in keeping this channel running. Until next time, stay tuned because Hollywood never sleeps. And neither do we when it comes to uncovering the latest news.